A grain of sand, a drop of water, a puff of wind. It all starts with a puff of wind, a drop of water, a grain of sand. A puff of wind is not much or almost nothing, but it can move a drop of water and even a grain of sand. A puff of wind is the flutter of a bird's wings. A puff of wind is searched by a dolphin when it sticks its head out of the water. A thistle only needs one puff of wind to disperse its seeds. Many puffs of wind produce the wind so frequent and intense on this coast, especially westerly and easterly winds. Many puffs of wind over the sea produce the waves which move and shape the sand on the beach. They wash seaweed torn from the sea floor onto the seashore. Plovers scavenge among the seaweed in search of a little food. The waves beat against the cliff, each time removing grains of sand from the cliff face. Life at the foot of the cliff is only for the most tenacious and perseverant. Barnacles and limpets are perfectly adapted for the task. Many puffs of wind drag many grains of sand from the beach until an obstacle forces them to stop. This is how sand dunes form. Man stopped these sand waves from advancing by planting pines. Many puffs of wind carry birds on their long journey from the north to these coasts in order to escape the winter cold. Other birds continue south in search of warmer climes. A drop of water is nothing or almost nothing, but it is enough to move a grain of sand at low tide. A drop of water is a dream for rock samphire growing on the cliff face. A seagull sheds a tear, a drop of water, to eliminate excess salt. A few drops of water can quench a traveler's thirst. The river Barbate is formed by many drops of water from the mountains and countryside in Cadiz. These water droplets sometimes stop on their journey and form lagoons in the countryside of La Janda. Many almost infinite drops of water form the ocean that bathes us, moving to the sound of the tide and waves. They rock their inhabitants, which are also made of drops of water, as well as the boats that fish them. Many drops of salty and fresh water from the sea and river leave behind their differences and mix in the marshes. At the rhythm imposed by the tide, they attract both salt and freshwater species. Many drops of rainwater support life in the pine forest. The pine needles barely manage to keep these raindrops in the soil, although some always remains. many raindrops seep into the sandy soil and descend into the porous rock, until an impermeable layer pushes them up like tears from the cliff, bringing the moss and fern to life. A grain of sand may not look like much, but it embodies millions of years of the Earth's history. Crabs obtain their food from just a few grains of sand. A few grains of sand make the footprints of sandpipers on the beach. A few grains of sand are enough to feel the warmth of the sun on this coast. But many grains of sand, which were previously beaches, dunes, and seabeds, formed the cliffs. Over time, these grains of sand were transformed into rock. Movements of the earth formed the Tajo de Barbate. These tall cliffs are made from infinite grains of sand. Many centuries ago, they were used to watch over the coast for enemy attacks. Birds also nest in its cracks and crevices, and some plants grow in the most inaccessible places. Many grains of sand, accumulated wave after wave, wind after wind, form the beaches and dunes. Sole need grains of sand to hide in. Maram grass needs the sand to continue growing. Many grains of sand closed the mouth of the river Barbate. The marshes were formed after mud accumulated behind that sandy barrier over many centuries. Life springs magically from the mire, providing food to thousands of waterfowl, which also originate from the mud. The pine forest floor is formed by many grains of sand mixed with pine needles, enough to create diversity in the shade of the pines. For large berry junipers, for pinyon pines to produce their coveted pine kernels. It all starts with a puff of wind, a drop of water, a grain of sand. Waters and seabeds, tidal creeks and rivers, marshes and grasslands, beaches and sandspits, cliffs and rock platforms, islands and isthmuses, dunes and coastal pine forests. The entire Atlantic coast of Andalusia starts with a grain of sand, a drop of water, a puff of wind. The entire Atlantic coast of Andalusia is represented here, on just a few kilometers of coastline, in a single protected natural area, la Breña y Marismas de Barbate Natural Park.